Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. This is a public informational meeting on the replacement of Oldfield Road Bridge over Bullet Hill Brook. My name is Matt Tarnowski. I am the project administrator for Public Works. We also have Blake Leonard, Public Works Director, and Gary Giroux of Cardinal Engineering with us. Gary is our consulting engineer on this project, so he'll be running through a few slides regarding the project. Then afterwards, you will get the chance to ask any questions or make any comments up at the podium. Before we start, has everyone had a chance to sign in? Alrighty, then I'll turn it over to Gary.
Thanks, Matt. Good afternoon. Thanks for showing up. This is not a requirement, but the DOT likes to have a public information meeting. The DOT would like to have a public information meeting on record so that they know that people of the municipality has had a chance to review and talk about the project. As you all know, back in August 1819 of last year now, we had a lot of rain. And a lot of rain caused a lot of issues around town. This project, prior to the rain, was on record to be replaced anyway. It had gone through the state program. The state of Connecticut Department of Transportation, through state and federal funds, are paying for 50% of the project right now. So whatever the final cost is on this project, half of it would be paid for by the state of Connecticut. The other half would be the town of Southbury. But since the subsequent to the state approving and us getting Cardinal starting the design process, the rains of August occurred and caused even more damage and closed the road down. So right now we're trying to get this expedited through the process to get it reconstructed as soon as possible. At this phase, we have submitted all the permits required for the project. Last year, just before Christmas, we submitted the permit required from the Corps of Engineers and from DEEP. So it's in their hands right now. They are reviewing the permits, and hopefully we'll be hearing from them soon. The game plan right now is hopefully to go out to bid sometime mid to late February. Construction will be this year. Which one's forward? Okay. I mean, I think everybody knows Oldfield Road. Okay, it's one of the major roads in town, especially coming from the center of town and going to Heritage Village. Very busy road. And it being closed right now really creates a headache for everybody. So that's the reason why we want to expedite the construction and get it done as soon as possible. As you can see here, the existing, where's the light? Got a light here? The center? Okay. That's the existing culvert prior to the flood. It was twin 72-inch pipes. They were in pretty poor condition. And the reasoning, we did an evaluation of the culvert and we gave it to DOT, and DOT agreed that the structure should be replaced. Typically, we do not replace in kind unless the project calls for it. We try to go after a structure that, number one, hydraulically is better than what's there now. And number two, we want to make sure the roadway up on top is adequate for the traffic that uses the roadway. So there's a lot of analysis that goes into pre-designing to get the right structure in this location. You all know the location of the road. I don't get into that. Again, more pictures. This is pre-flood. Pre-flood, as you can see, the head walls are masonry block walls, which usually we don't construct anymore using masonry block. It just doesn't hold up over time. So it should be reinforced concrete. But as you can see here, there's gaps between the pipe and the wall. Water gets in between there and washes out the materials behind and underneath the road, and that causes a structural failure over time. This picture is post-flood, As you can see, there's a hanging gas main here. There's a water main that's now shut off that goes under the pipe, under the pipes. You have a drainage pipe here that's sticking up in the air. Again, major damage, and anybody who's walked down there can see that there was a lot of water that went through there last summer. Again, some pictures. This is inside the pipe. The concrete is actually eroding away. And you can't really see too good in this picture, but the reinforcing in the pipe is exposed. The joints are exposed. Water gets into these joints and again undermines the pipe. The bottom two pictures, post-flood. And of course, the reason why the road's closed. All right, little bit of detail. The pre-flood, it was a twin 72-inch pipe. We calculated that the adequacy of that structure was only for a 15-year design, 15-year flow. The rainfall that we had last summer was in the range of 700 to 800 year, way beyond the capacity of the existing structure. And even beyond the capacity of what typically design standards are only for a 100-year flood. And we are going back with a 100-year design, but we are also making sure that the embankment, the roadway, can withstand overtopping. So what we're going back with is a 20x9 precast concrete box culvert. Twin 72-inch pipes have an opening of approximately 54 square feet. The 20x9 with 2 feet of inside material has an opening of 140 square feet. So we're tripling the opening of the box, which means a lot more water can get through under normal conditions. So we are, again, designing for the 100-year flow. We are accommodating or going to be adding room on the upstream side for a sidewalk. That's the library side. I guess sometime in the future, sidewalks may be installed on Old Field Road. So we're going to make sure that the new structure is wide enough to accommodate a sidewalk. And all the gas and water, right now, gas was hanging off the downstream side of the structure. The gas is now going to go underneath, so it's protected by the next flood that comes. And water will also go underneath. It always was, but it will be going underneath. Again, this is just a pictorial of the limits of the project. The yellow is the reconstructed roadway, Old Field Road. That's supposed to be orange. I think it's orange. I don't know. I'm sort of colorblind. But that's your new structure. And then you have Bullet Hill Brook. We've had many meetings with DEEP and the Corps. And as you can see here, we have little check dams in the brook which will accommodate flow and slow it down so that fish can pass up the brook itself. DEEP considers this brook to be a very viable fish habitat, and they want to keep it that way, even though once you get up the garage road, they can't go any further. Again, the front yard, this was all washed out by the flood, where you see all this green, so it's all going to be going back and replanted. That's just a profile of the road. Again, the box, these are the two pipes here now that are still there, and this is the new box that's going in. As you can see, the water and gas are going underneath, and the road will basically reconstructed to the same grade and location as it was before the flood. This is just views. We are going to be installing, this bridge will have bridge rail on it and it'll have a parapet, but the parapet will be a little different from what you typically see on structures. These are curved walls, which will be curving into the lawn area and down. We had an option to put in metal beam rail, but we figured I didn't want to do it. Wouldn't look too good. So we opted for these curved walls in front of, and as you can see here, we have some architectural treatment on the concrete itself. It's not going to be natural stone, but it's going to be what they call a form liner that they put on the concrete forms, and when the concrete sets, it gets a relief of a stone relief to it. And then we have an artist come in, and they actually stain the concrete to look like natural stone. If anybody wants to see the final product, take a drive up to Purchase Brook Road, the bridge. We just did that one last summer. It doesn't have the same type of walls on it. They're not curved, but it has the concrete treatment with the staining on it. And I believe it came out pretty good. This is more wetlands. We'll be making a presentation to wetlands next month, but basically there's a lot of wetlands here, which we are going to be maintaining basically the brook and the adjacent properties to the brook, and we are going to be filling in some wetland naturally here because this is where the sidewalk's going in. But again, we will be making that presentation next month to wetlands for approval. As I mentioned before, the permits to the core and deep are in their hands right now, and they're reviewing it, and hopefully we should be getting approval from them. It's just a matter of time. That's just water handling. What's going to happen is the contractor will be installing some temporary pipes around so they can excavate and get the structure in, get the utilities underneath, and then do all the in-stream work. And that's basically it. And we're open for questions for anybody who has any questions. Again, we're expecting construction sometime this summer. Hopefully it's a quick construction turnaround. Again, anybody who's familiar with what happened up on Purchase Brook Road, that culvert went in over a 6-week period. And I'm not saying this is going to be, there's 2 utilities here that we have to deal with, so it's going to be a little slower than 6 weeks. But we're looking for maybe 2 to 2.5 months of time for construction. So all that can be controlled by the contract documents. If we force the contractor to do it within a time period, he's got to technically do it within that time period. Otherwise, he'll be hit with a liquidated damage clause that we have in the contract. But it's a straightforward job. These types of projects are being done all over the state of Connecticut right now. It's a box culvert, which is a 4-sided structure, so it's like a pipe. As you can see, the 2 existing pipes withstood the flood. They're still there. The flood just washed around. The box culverts are much more substantial than the pipes, and we expect any future flooding will not wash them out, and it'll be a quick repair work if anything does get washed away. Again, going back to Purchase Brook, that was installed, and they were to be paving the road the Monday after the flood. I went up there that Monday morning, and the box culvert was standing high and dry, but the embankments, the roadway got washed out around, but the contractor was able to get everything put back, and they paved the following Wednesday. So the damage is minimal if you put the right structure in, and that's what the intent is here, to do the same thing.
So if anyone has questions, comments, concerns, could you please come up to the podium, press the button on there, make sure the light's green.
I have a question on the flares. You went to a curved flare instead of a straight flare?
Right.
Because you said
No, that's.
Because you said it didn't look good.
It's an aesthetics thing, yeah. Yep,
Is there any additional cost for the curved flare?
no.
Also, the simulated stone appearance, which requires a staining. There's an extra cost for that, right?
Well, it's all built in the contract. There is a cost. Yes, there is a cost factor, but it's not a huge number compared to the overall project cost.
What's the life expectancy of that stain?
That's a good question. It's been in use now in the state of Connecticut for about 15 to 20 years. Yes, it does fade away over time. I won't deny that fact. But it can be restained.
At an additional
At
cost?
additional cost, yes.
You don't have the, well, you won't know the dollar figure for that until the bids come in.
Unfortunately, we don't typically bid that as a separate item. It's part of the concreting itself, so it's hidden in the various costs of the concrete. So,
It's lost. in
it's,
there.
it's lost. I mean, yes, it's technically lost, but I mean, that's a number that I can get a hold of for restaining purposes, yes. I mean, that's something I can reach out to there aren't too many contractors in the state that do it. So they sort of have a captured audience but I can get a number for that.
And then there's no change in the cost between the straight and the curve?
No.
Okay.
Green.
There you go, okay. Okay, so what is the cost of this project?
Pardon?
What is the cost of the project?
It's gonna be between $1 and $1.4 million.
Okay, so the town's responsible for roughly half of that?
Half of that, yes.
Okay,
Well, that's the construction costs. They're also responsible for design and construction inspection services.
okay,
But that's 50% reimbursable also by the state.
okay, so what's our total nut?
The bottom line number, probably $1.5 million.
1.5?
all in.
Okay, all right. And you're expecting it's gonna take about 2.5 months to complete?
We're gonna set up the contract to be no more than 2.5, 3 months.
Okay. How many
to be
bids
in
do you,
and out.
how many bids do you solicit?
How many,
How
pardon?
many bids do you solicit for the project?
It goes out to bid and whoever wants to bid on it bids on it.
Okay.
It's a public bid, and sometimes you get 1, 2 bidders, sometimes you get a dozen bidders.
Does this come from an approved list of bidders, or are you just taking anybody that bids on it?
You have to show experience in this type of work. That's part of the bid package
Okay.
that they have to submit. We used to go and require that they be pre-approved by DOT, but we took that out because we wanted to get more contractors involved.
Okay,
There have been some contractors on past projects that we've just completed where they asked, can you take that clause out of the contract? Because we want to get involved in this type of work, and you can't show experience with DOT and get approved by DOT unless you show the experience. So since it's fairly simple, we do ask for qualifications, and you have to put up, different types of projects that you have done in the past and show us your record. But you do not have to be pre-approved.
okay. You said you're still waiting for approval from DEEP and who else?
Corps of Engineers.
Okay, and the time frame for that could be how long?
Well, we submitted the permit applications to the Corps just prior to Christmas, and technically, by regulation, they have to act on it within 60 days. So we're halfway through that period right now. Hopefully, we'll be hearing prior to sometime the end of February. We have never been denied a permit by the Corps or Deep on these projects. They know it has to again, and again, this project even more so because it's an important roadway in town. They know there are issues with the flooding that we had last summer, I mean, the core and the deep. And so I fully expect approval. There may be a few caveats in their approval language, we want you to do this, but we've already had many meetings out in the field with deep personnel, and we designed the project around what they were looking for environmentally. So we should be good to go.
Is this box culvert installed in one piece, or is it
No.
in sections?
No, it's probably going to be 4 or 5 sections.
Okay, so it's set in one after the other?
Yep.
Up or
Yeah,
downstream?
that's a one-day installation process, though. It shouldn't take more than a day to install the entire box.
Okay. As far as the decorative stonework on the curved wing walls there, you're probably looking at, I mean, if we're looking at a project at an estimated cost of 1.5, are we looking at something that could be in the estimate of like $5,000 to do the decorative work, or $10,000 or $15,000, or since you've done these before, what do you
Again,
have
I've
from a
never
previous job?
priced it out separately. I would say it typically takes them a day to do it. So
Okay.
you're probably talking maybe $5,000, $6,000.
Okay.
I'm just guessing right now, don't hold me to
Right.
that number.
When you did, when the one that was done on Purchase Bridge, did you have a breakout of what it cost for that particular work?
No,
It was part of the entire package.
no.
I'm just curious, why do you not break the bidding down into sections like you would on an AIA form?
Well, I mean, it's a unit price project, so there are a lot of items in the contract that get paid for on a unit price basis, by quantity.
Right,
and-
so if there's lines in the project, then we essentially know what it's gonna cost.
Right,
Okay, so when the bid comes in, essentially at that point, we'd know what each section of the project would cost.
yes.
Okay, so essentially after the fact it gets awarded, then we can actually look and see what this costs.
Right.
Okay,
Right, and even the bids that come in, there's a bid that comes in, they award the contract based upon a certain number. You don't know what that final number is gonna be until the job's finished, because items do change, quantities do change during contracts. So if it's a unit price project, they get paid by the amount of material they put in, based upon a cost per unit of that material.
okay. As far as cost overruns go, how is that accounted for in the, let's say, for example, I'd run.
There's a means and methods in how you handle cost overruns, and it depends on how big the overrun is. And these are all standards that DOT has in their specifications, which we follow, DOT specifications, on how you handle those type of overruns.
Okay. And the review of the entire project and inspections are done by Cardinal or by the town?
Cardinal,
Okay. And the town obviously has input on the inspections during the meantime?
yeah.
Okay, okay. I'm assuming that whoever the contractor is, or someone Cardinal or the town, is an on-site inspector?
Yes.
Okay. And that includes the road work?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I think that'll do it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Hello? Okay, hi. Okay, so I'm one of the residents in the area. I live right behind the library. So one of the questions that I have is, are you guys gonna help out with the leveling of the creek? Because it's really high up where even with a little bit of rain, you could see that it might overflow already. So I wanna know, is that part of the, whatever you guys are planning to do with the construction this summer?
Are you on the upstream side of the library side?
Right behind the library, like
Okay.
that blue house.
We're not going too far up the creek with making any changes to it.
Okay.
We're just going up, I think it's 50 feet. But the new culvert that's going in
Okay,
should allow more water to go through without backing up.
okay.
So there will be less flooding. Not
Okay.
should be, there will be.
And then with the sidewalk that you guys are adding, is that like from the library all the way to the light, or how?
The sidewalk is only within it hasn't really determined how much we're going in with yet. This is the paved limit of the projects. The sidewalk is on this side, the library is over here.
Yeah,
There are 1, 2 utility poles that will be interfering with the sidewalk, so we haven't really discussed that yet. We are making sure that the project the length of the culvert's long enough so that we can get a sidewalk, a 5-foot sidewalk across this side right here. When the sidewalk goes in, I mean, we can put the sidewalk in under this project, but when it goes in on the rest of Oldfield Road, it's up to the town.
Okay, and then the other question is, like, on my side, I know, like, across the street, and right on the other side of the creek, we did experience a lot of debris and a lot of, like, mud. I have maybe a 10-foot pile of mud. I don't even know how long it is in the backyard, and that's not even half of the property that we picked up. Are you guys gonna help us out with trying to get out of other property, or like, what can we do?
This project, since it's going through the state local bridge program and they're paying 50%, is really only supposed to be for the bridge
Only for the bridge?
replacement.
Okay,
I mean, again, as I mentioned earlier, we submitted the application to the DOT on behalf of the town before the flood happened. DOT approved it before the flood happened, so technically, this is only for the bridge. DOT will only be paying for the bridge. Now, if the town wants to incorporate and do some other cleanup work within this contract, that can be handled, but again, the town's gonna have to pay 100% of that.
okay, thank you.
Just one further question. This new opening here is designed for a 100-year storm?
100-year storm.
Okay, is that the optimum situation for us here?
That is the standard that the state of Connecticut, both DOT and DEEP, has been designing all their projects for the past 50, 60 years and going forward. Now, the 100-year storm has been changing in intensity over time. As we all know, rainstorms have been increasing in intensity. And the federal government issues every so often what they call rainfall data. And the rainfall data has been going up. So that new data gets into the program. So when we say a 100-year storm, 20 years ago, a 100-year storm was basically 7.5 inches over 24 inches. 7.5 inches of rain over 24 hours, okay? The new data today, issued by the Weather Bureau, now has it at 9.2 inches. So it's gone up almost 2 inches in 24 hours. Unfortunately, the storm we had last summer was 13 inches in 12 hours.
So considering the amount of money that we're spending on this, whether it's has split, is this 100-year design criteria the best approach for this, or should we be designing for something more than that, just because it's the standard now? Should we be anticipating what might be happening and say we need to go to a larger opening?
That's a cost factor. I mean, you could design for a 250-year or a 500-year storm, but you could be increasing the project cost by 2 or 3 times.
Okay, that's. what
Okay,
I'm-
so what's
that's what I'm
happening right now is we're designing this opening for 100 years. If we do get a 150 or a 200-year storm or something that approaches what happened last summer, what is going to happen is the roadway and the embankment will wash out around. But that bridge structure should stay standing and intact, which means it's a quick, easy repair to get the road back up to where it should be.
Pretty much what you had on Purchase Brook, it just washed out around it, they filled in, and that was the end of
Yeah.
that. Okay, all right. All right, that was it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Couple of quick questions. Could you explain in one of the slides before we were talking about some headway or something above the fill level of the culvert? One or two slides back.
Oh. These,
Slides back. Freeboard or something? I think
Oh.
it was in the pre-flood and the after-flood. It's not in there. No freeboard at roadway.
no
What does it
freeboard,
mean,
which means
freeboard?
freeboard is the amount of room you have. It's a measurement, vertical measurement, where the floodwaters and the embankment that you're holding back, it's a differential.
So it's
So
not
when we say
inside the
100
culvert, it's above the culvert.
So what's happening is that culvert will pass a 100-year storm, but that water surface elevation on the upstream side will be right at the edge of the embankment. Okay? If we had a foot of freeboard, the water would be 1 foot lower than the edge of the road.
So there was a 1 foot freeboard on the existing structure, but not
Oh,
on
no.
the proposed
The
structure?
existing only handle,
It says 1 foot of freeboard, and proposed structure, it says no freeboard.
this is what, that's the design criteria.
Yeah.
That's DOT and DEEP's design criteria. Ideally, they want to see, for a 100-year flood, they want to see 1 foot of freeboard,
Yep,
okay? Which means you have 1 foot of safety area for water to build up.
yep.
Okay, the existing culvert only passed 15-year storm, okay? We're designing it for a 100-year storm, so when we get the 100-year storm, water will be right at the edge of the road. The road should be passable, no water going over the road, but the
But no
water will be
safety
right there.
margin.
We will not have any freeboard. If you want to design for freeboard, it's going to be a much larger structure.
Or put it deeper?
Well, that's the issue, you can't. I mean, we can only go so deep with the structure, and then we have all the issues with the brook itself. How much do you want to redo Bullet Hill Brook? And right now, Bullet Hill Brook has, there's a lot of controls in it, and Deep really doesn't want to do a lot of cleanup of the brook itself. They want to try to keep it
Okay.
pretty much as it is.
Could you move forward to the colored image? There you go. I noticed that the inflow is much narrower, at least in the top view, compared
Right
to
here?
the outflow.
Yeah.
Why is that?
That's just the way the brook, that's the existing dimensions of the brook. We're
So
not changing
unless
that.
there's a difference in depth, that means there's a higher flow rate, higher velocity going in than it is
Yes.
going out.
Yes.
And I noticed that the inflow is at an angle to the entrance of the culvert.
Yep.
Would it not make more sense to split the difference? Because the inrush of flow will now hit the right wing wall more than the left because of that angle.
Good questions. Yes,
I'm
you're
just an
absolutely
engineer,
correct.
sorry.
Ideally, we try to put a structure in that is easily constructed, and we take all those considerations in the design. So, yes, you're absolutely correct, but we take that into
Well,
consideration.
if I have a
in the design.
draftsperson, I put that in at right angle, 90 degrees to the road. But if I'm a hydraulics engineer, I'm splitting the angle.
Yeah, but then you're running into other issues,
Well,
regulation-wise. I understand what you're saying.
who says you have to be perpendicular to the road? Nobody says that. There's many culverts, underpasses that go at an angle. Follow the natural flow of the river, of the water.
It's a more expensive way of doing it.
Okay,
This is the cheapest way, but we do take that into consideration in the design numbers,
okay.
calculations.
What do you do with the water during construction?
We have
You
this,
bypass
we
it?
have a bypass pipe. You're not gonna do a pump on this. We have a bypass pipe. Right here is your bypass pipe. They're twin 48-inch pipes.
And that's permanent or just for the
No,
construction?
that's temporary. That's just for the
Just-
duration of the contract. And they're typically designed based upon how long we expect the contractor to be out there. So that's why, okay. We have twin 72s now. We're putting in a large 20-foot box, and you only have two 48-inch. Well, that's because we expect only to be out there for 3 months tops.
Right. Okay.
Could
And
this
then-
flood out? I mean, if this project could have been constructed last summer during the month of August, what would have happened? Well, you would have washed everything out.
And then, I think you mentioned, or had a brief remark, those curved lines in the water way, what are
Right here?
those? Yeah.
Those are stone check dams. They are a part of the permit requirement from deep in the core to slow the water down and create little steps so
Ripples
fish
for
can
fish migration,
migrate upstream.
okay. Would they also be intended to catch debris?
They will catch debris.
Right, because, I mean, much of the damage happened when those culverts blocked because of trees, branches, all sorts of
Well, yeah, you have two
undecided debris.
two
caught.
6-foot diameter, yeah, and you can see the lot did get caught up on the upstream side. But right now, for the new structure being 20 feet wide and 7 feet high, a lot's gonna go through. I can't guarantee that nothing will ever get caught there. It does happen.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So with DOT kind of redesigning a lot of the drainage and culverts and pipes on 67, will this design cover some of the increases in volume that could be coming down the brook in the future? Or is this something that'll have to get augmented and adjusted 3 to 5 years from
Well,
now
this-
to accommodate new flow?
This is designed according to DOT standards,
Right.
okay? So I do not know exactly what they designed their structures for. I assume they follow the same criteria.
I'm just thinking that
And
if they increase the
keep in mind-
volume capacities, that this will be the end unit before.
You have upstream of this, you have 1, 2, 3 culverts before DOT's culverts.
Right.
And the smallest one being on, what's the name of the road? Oak Tree.
Tree.
Oak Tree. Much smaller than what we're putting in here, so.
Okay. It was just a thought I was having, because I know that they're going to work on redesigning 67 through that area where it flooded. If they're getting a lot more flow and they open everything up to be more accommodating, and you become the smallest piece, then,
We're not gonna be the smallest piece, but like I said, because it's a box culvert, it's basically a pipe. If it does overflow,
Yeah,
flow
you
over the
rip the
road, you
sides
just
out and start
redo it again.
okay, thank you.
No big deal. A big deal. Okay.
So going a little more technical from your question, when you design this bridge, does it look at the full watershed upstream that drains to this point
Yes.
as the factor of the runoff? So you're factoring everything that is already coming down that watershed regardless of how it's constricted or not? So
Yes.
everything that's gonna flow to this point is based on that 100-year storm?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, 100%.
fantastic.
We don't take a look at any restrictions between this project and anything upstream. We assume that everything gets there
Okay.
with no,
Right, so it's the
hindrance.
full watershed, so it's everything
Yep.
that's going up not Bucks Hill, Bullet Hill, everything down 67. So it's the two branches that are coming together
Yep.
and the other tribs that flow in. Okay. That's really helpful clarification. And then I noticed if you can go back a couple slides, you have a cross-section profile that shows the flow going through this one. The one
That one?
forward. Nope, I guess it was the other way. Has the actual box itself that shows sediment in the bottom. Is there gonna be, stone and rock structure through the bottom of the structure? Is
Yes,
it
we're
set into
showing-
the
we're
bottom of the
showing-
stream?
2 feet
2 feet
of natural stream bed material.
okay, so it will effectively be invisible to the fish that are passing through. Okay, great.
Again, that's, I mean, typically it's anywhere from a foot to 2 feet.
Yep.
Depends on our conversation with Deep.
Sure.
And they asked for 2 feet here,
Yeah,
so we
that
gave
makes
them 2
sense
feet.
from the fisheries perspective, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, great. And then, just mention, when we're talking about the 100-year storm, just remind folks it's a good, don't think of it as how frequently they happen, it's the probability of how frequently they happen.
Right.
It's the 1% chance that storm could happen any one year. So when you think about the cost and risk analysis, this is a cost-effective sizing. And glad DOT keeps up with the data.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, I encourage anybody to take a look at Purchase Brook to see how the concrete came out in the staining. I think it came out pretty good. It looks pretty good. And like I said, we do this all over the state of Connecticut, and they really do a good job. We also went the other route. We did a bridge up in Norfolk a couple years ago, and we actually put natural stone. But that was a $200,000 premium, so that means $100,000 out of our pocket here. I mean, it looks pretty good. I mean, you can walk up to it and see, yeah, you can tell it's concrete. But from 20 feet away, it looks pretty natural. And again, the real reason for the curved wing walls curving away was we did not want to put beam rail across the bridge. Jay, in your front yard, would you like to see beam rail anchored at your driveway? So, if that's it, I thank you for showing up, and all are welcome to watch the progress during construction if you want.